Yo, what's good, everybody? If you were on there just a second ago, we were having a little bit of technical difficulties with the intro and transitioning. So we started over the stream. Apologize for the notifications or the few minutes, but hope everybody is having a great Tuesday. It's November 4th. All things considered, blood in the streets. Obviously, as you've seen by the title of my stream of the stream, and if you've been following my tweets the past few days, this stream is primarily going to be about the bull case for 2026 and why I still think, despite this drop here for Bitcoin, and obviously memes and alts have been in a mini bear market for the whole year, kind of for the most part, but really just this Bitcoin correction here is very likely just going to end up being another multi-month corrective coil up, similar to the other two I have here on the screen from the summer of 24, and then obviously the tariff war correction of April. Not only we're going to go into the charts, but I'm going to go into overall the bull case and why I think overwhelmingly we are not in 2021 anymore, and why everything considered, including the charts, is pointing to a move into 2026. Who knows if it happens in December, November, how long this correction takes to finish out. We will talk about as well as, where maybe I think this bottoms out, but different signs of when we could be seeing the bottom. We'll be looking at past corrections. But overall, I'm going to give you my best, bull case and why I remain so bullish despite, this move down. It may sound like I'm just a perma bull and I'm just always bullish, but I will be the first one when I do think it is the top. And everything's up a bunch. There's probably a retail mania, like signs of the real top, Bitcoin fear and greed index, sentiment, all that. I'll be the first one to tell you that, you should be mostly out, consider mostly be taken, out of the market and, not be more risk adverse. But I don't think that's what we're looking at here. Before we get started, as well, in about 20 minutes, I'm going to have my good friend Nigma on. He was on the stream here about a month or two ago. Had a great conversation. Guy's been in the space here for a while as well. An educator, not only in crypto, but like a real life teacher. So I really like his style and how he explains the market. We'll hear from him. But before we get started, and before we get into Bitcoin and everything else, first, make sure to like, comment, retweet, bookmark the stream. For now, we're doing these streams twice a week, soon to move to 3 and 4 days. Have some great guests lined up for next Friday, or this Friday, actually. Gonna have my buddy, my buddy, let's see, who did I have scheduled for? I think Jaden on Friday. And yeah, have some other great guests lined up. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. But we are going to be reading the chat, questions, comments. First of all, before we get started, let me know how you guys are feeling in the chat. Let me know if this is your first time in the chat. If it is first time in the stream, go ahead and say first time. Let me know how you guys are feeling. Are you stressing out? Have you been kind of selling on the way down? You've been accumulating? Let me know how you're feeling. I'm going to look at the chat really quickly here before we get started. Fish says, what's up? Aloha, Bren. Beaver Moon reversal soon. Yeah, for sure. Cryptden says, what's up, man? Caught my first stream. That's what's up. Thank you for being here, brother. What's up, P? How you doing? Juicy, always bullish. I want a DCA. Everything is on sale. Yeah, same here, man. Basement Javi says, hey, P, what's up? What's up, Javi? What's up, P? MKT, what's up, Jinxie? What's up, Jikinta? What's up, Prudis? Medex says, I'm used to this. I bought ETH in November 2021 and hold till now. Okay, so you bought November 21 on ETH, which would be started by November of 21. Okay. Oh, so you bought? Yeah, you're saying you bought near the top. Yeah, so you're used to this, brother. This is nothing. No, yeah, I mean that's a good point. I'm glad you said that. And that's what we're gonna go over today, and kind of the case where I think overwhelmingly Bitcoin and ETH, especially on the charts, is pointing to a April type correction. One of the corrections we've seen throughout the bull market already. in summer of 23, the summer of 24, where Bitcoin will correct for 6 months and then continue higher. I think I'm going to make the case why we're looking more like that and not the one that my boy Medex bought at the top here in November of 21. That's kind of what everybody's scared of right now, right? There's two camps, right? There's really, that's everybody's worst fear, is that, we're going to head down, bull market's topped, and we're going to head down into 27, 28. Nothing's, all our coins are going to go even lower. And while anything's possible, guys, I think, again, charts, fundamentals, a bunch of other stuff we're going to go over right now points to this being another April type correction. I think I tweeted yesterday that there's a lot of similarities, or there's a lot of, it feels like April in a lot of ways. Obviously, the tariff correction, the tariff war ending in April, the tariff, there's a negotiation, and prices moving down. I would say maybe make a slight correction to that. I was thinking about it. I think we're either in March or April. And really, I think we're probably, if I had to compare it to like the April correction, and of course these corrections are going to be different, I think we're like here or here, where we're kind of in like that final leg down, very likely. Most of these corrections are going to end in some type of consolidation, which we'll talk here in a second. But overall, let's go ahead and start with the charts, guys. I think that's the kind of the easiest comparison and the kind of the easiest thing for people to see on why this correction we're looking at now is very likely going to not be something we need to, not be a cycle top, and instead be very likely a correction we've already seen several times, over the past few years since the bull market started in 2022. So pretty much like we were talking about earlier, everybody's worst fear is that we are at the start of a bear market, just like 21 or 2018, where crypto tops out and ETH, Bitcoin, Sol go down, or ETH, Bitcoin back then went down, 50% within 2 months, and then kept going down almost 70, 80% over 9 months, 9 to 18 months. The market dies, everybody loses interest, and then we come back in 2 years. Right? That's everybody's worst fear, and rightfully so. The market's been brutal the last few years. I think everybody's tired as hell, especially in memes and alts. It's really easy to kind of, that's where most people on crypto Twitter are, in the last few years. So it's really easy to feel helpless, and it's over. But again, if we just look at Bitcoin and ETH, especially Bitcoin, which drives the conditions of all markets, when Bitcoin's going up, ETH, memes, Sol, alts, even the trenches are strong, and vice versa. When it's coming down, as we've seen the last few months, trenches dry up, ETH memes come down. So if we let Bitcoin be our guide, I think there's very obvious signs and clues as to why this is a April type correction, a summer correction of 24, type of correction versus what we saw in November of 21. And the first most obvious being in the price action, or the what I like to call the impulsivity versus the correctiveness, right? Where the biggest giveaway too in November of 21 is that it pretty much consolidated or held the 70K high on Bitcoin here for 7 or 8 months. Okay, 7 or 8 months, held that high, failed to break it. And the biggest giveaway and the biggest difference on the price action we're seeing now and in April versus the real top in 21 was the impulsivity and how fast it came down. As you can see in November of 21, Bitcoin came down from 65K down to 33K in a matter of 2 months. This is like 6 weeks, 6 or 7 weeks. As you can see here, the corrections, summer of 24, Bitcoin came down 15%, but then it bounced. Came down another 15%, bounced in this choppy like corrective channel, or corrective coil up, wedge, whatever you want to call it. People have different names for it. I like to call it corrective channels. There is a clear, distinctive difference between this is the most obvious difference because of how choppy and coiled up it is, versus what we saw in the first 6 or 7 weeks of 2021. Okay, this spells out bear market. This spells no bounce, no hope. This is what you really want to be worried about. But instead, when I see a chart like 2024, summer of 2024, come down and yes, came down 15, 20%, but then bounced and showed me corrective behavior. Um, that's that's what we saw in summer of 24. We saw another version in April. It was steeper, yes, but as you can see, it bottomed out and then went higher. I think we're seeing a very similar April-like correction where I think we're probably like here. Of course, it's going to look different. None of these corrections are the exact same, but I think we're probably like here where a big move down. And right now we're at about a 22, 23% correction for Bitcoin. I tweeted this today where these are the past corrections. How does a Bitcoin correction compare to others? In summer of 23, 35 to 20, 25K, 20%. Summer of 24, there was a 25% correction. Spring of 25, there's a 30% correction. Right now, it's moved down a little bit since then, obviously. I think we're at about a 22, 23% correction. Um, I think what's very likely to happen is that we're going to see a 25 to 30%, typical 25 to 30% correction somewhere in there, which would land us in the mid to high 90s, something like this, which again would be on point with the other corrections we've seen in the past. Maybe find the brush. Maybe something like this where we bounce a little bit, come down maybe a little bit, consolidate. Oh, sorry. Let me share the screen. Come down, consolidate for a bit, and then head higher. Again, just like we saw in April and 2024, the correction is going to be look different, but it's a variation on the theme, and there's a clear, distinct things you want to be looking for. Right now, to the opposite side, what would I be looking for to invalidate this, or why? Yeah, exactly. What would pretty much invalidate this is if Bitcoin, instead of bouncing, were to continue to go down this week and have straight red candles, just like we saw in 2021, where it just went down 50% from there. Really, what I'd be looking for, the line in the sand for me, is like a weekly candle closes below 90K, where again, it just went straight down, straight through 80. To me, that would be more of an impulsive move. Of like 30, 40%. At that point, I think we would be very likely have topped. If we just go straight down to like, under 90, probably like, 85K, I'd say, with no bounces at all, just straight impulsive behavior. At that point, I would probably be looking for a bounce and definitely would invalidate this trade idea. But again, we've already seen signs of corrective behavior in this coil up, since it started in July. And I think what's very likely to happen is Bitcoin going to come back down, possibly into the 90s, maybe 95. Doesn't really matter. I'm starting to slowly build a long position on ETH with tight stops. But what I'm looking for to build a meaningful long position and to really go harder on my DCAing is what we saw here in February and March, which is consolidation. Okay. Just like we saw in the summer of 2024. What did Bitcoin do at the end of the correction here? It held this low at 54K or consolidated for 3 months. Right here, Bitcoin, this one was steeper and quicker, but it consolidated for about a month and a half. So what am I looking for here to really show that the Bitcoin bottom is very likely in here on the charts? That is some type of slowdown or consolidation, just like we saw here and here. That's usually what we see at the bottom of these corrections chart-wise. Okay. Now, could we just somehow see a V-shaped recovery like we saw on COVID and Bitcoin in 2020, or like we saw on ETH earlier this year, where it kind of just came down out of this correction here really quickly, V-shaped bottom, and just went straight up? Sure. But again, the way that we usually see these corrections end is some type of consolidation or distribution before heading higher. Okay. So that's kind of the last sign I'm really looking for chart wise. I'm fully open to Bitcoin coming down into the 90s, possibly into the low 90s with a quick wick. At that point, I think we're going to see more and more people just be completely, shook and get bearish. And at that point, again, I still think, like, for the chart reasons, and what we're going to go over here in a second very likely ends up looking a lot more like April and summer of 2024 versus the top November 21 top that everybody's worried about. And of course, I want to let you guys know I'm even though I'm very, very confident in this, this playing out. This has been in the game 10 years. I've seen not just these corrections play out, a lot of other ones. I'm very confident in comparing this to other corrections I've seen, different not only just on the charts, but it's just in sentiment and behavior and all these different things. But I'm completely open to being wrong. And if this is invalidated, I would, be the first one to tell you. But again, I think overwhelmingly it's pointing to us being in a summer of 2024 correction and an April type correction, which leads me into my next point, other than the charts, which we'll keep an eye on. Again, what I'd be looking for, maybe if you just popped in here, what I'd be looking for the Bitcoin chart to really confirm that the bottom's in is some type of slowdown / consolidation for days or weeks, like we saw in April, around 77K, or like we saw in September of 24, around 56. And other than the charts, because which really haven't manifested yet, what has me so extremely bullish and why I think we're not in 2021 anymore is for the first time we have all the world's financial institutions, like the important ones in American, finance, pretty much all in on merging Bitcoin and let me go back, merging crypto and TradFi. Let me see here. I had this saved. Let me see here. Give me 1 second here, guys. So we're not in 2021 anymore. In 2021, it was the run was strictly fueled by retail, pretty much retail mania, sending everything crazy higher. And which obviously created a blow off top. Technology wasn't ready. Speculation was ahead of the tech, came down. This time, it's been driven by a lot of it by institutions. We haven't had that retail mania yet. And for the first time, and if you look around, in the signs outside of price, it's become extremely obvious that traditional finance, the powers that be, and we're not just talking about some random hedge funds, we're talking about BlackRock, which, has more power than any institution, like, in the world, probably financial institution. Larry Fink, for example, watched this really
I would say
talks
the biggest
about how
question
not
from
only are they talking about tokenizing the entire financial system, but how fast they're trying to do it.
central banks is what is the role of tokenization and digitization? How quickly should they think about digitizing their own currency? What does that mean for the role of the dollar? If every currency digitizes and we have what does that mean for bank payments? What does that mean for the payment companies like MasterCard and Visa? All these are being questioned right now. I think we spend so much time talking about AI. We're not spending enough time talking about how quickly we're going to tokenize every financial asset and the opportunity we're going to have a digital wallet and moving ETFs and other things through a digital wallet. And I think that's going to happen worldwide very rapidly. And I think most countries are ill-prepared for that and underappreciate how technology is changing that.
So a lot of people will hear that and say, okay, yeah, of course they're going to digitize, RWA and real estate and, all this stuff. What's that have to do with my meme coins, or what does that have to do with crypto? And I think the big, the smart take on it, I think, in the way to see it is what this is going to increase, and what he's pretty much saying here is they're trying to get digital wallets to the world, not just governments, but to everyday people, so that they can hold U.S. dollar exposure in stable coins. We're going to talk about here in a second. It's just completely obvious that the powers that be, at least Trump, Besson, a lot of these people are trying to get a lot of not only the U.S., but the world exposure to U.S. stable coins. And what that's going to do is not only these people going to hold stable coins, but for the first time, millions and probably ending up billions of people eventually are going to have digital wallets, which is going to open up their mind to digital assets in general, which will lead to digital collectibles, NFTs, crypto. It just opens up, just gets digital wallets in the hands of way more people, which ultimately drives more capital and mind share into crypto overall. And again, like you're saying here, Larry Fink is not saying this is happening in 3 or 5 years, but they're going full force right now on getting this. I think the institutions, yes, of course, they can weather any storm. Some institutions would rather accumulate lower, but I think these guys are way more incentivized, especially with Trump, which we'll go over here in a second. There's only so much we can cover, but pardoning CZ and potentially Binance looking to IPO probably in 2026. A lot of people are saying. I think all of these signs are pointing to when us not being in 2021 anymore, being so much more already institutional demand that the chance that we're going to see a 30 to 50%, 50 to 75% uh, year to 2 year long bear market here, I think are just, very small. And again, that's the institutional side. I think the regulation, real quickly here, the SEC says regulatory clarity for crypto assets is a key priority. These guys are already putting out bills, or putting not bills, but already going pretty quickly on a lot of these different things. They already got the Stablecoin Act, obviously. There's the Clarity Act. They're doing these exemptions for crypto businesses or Web3 businesses where they can experiment with things while they're building these framework. Again, this is happening right now, not 2 or 3 years from now. To where I think all of these things together, the charts, the regulation, the institutions, are pointing to just one thing again, that we're not in 2021 anymore, and that the chances that we're going to be pushed into a bear market, um, you know, that lasts longer than just like a few months, I think is unlikely here. Again, all things considered, apart from all of the bear markets of the past, the one we saw in 2021 came with a nasty stock market crash too. I don't know if you guys were around, but nasty stock market crash, the biggest one we saw since COVID. It might have been even bigger than the COVID one, where in January 2022, actually November 21, same time, SPX, S&P 500 put in a correction and came down over 25% along with crypto. That's when they started raising rates again. Inflation was going crazy. And now what are we looking at? Now they're lowering rates without anything breaking. It seems like they've had a soft landing. Anything can happen now, but it seems like they've got that soft landing over time that everybody thought was impossible. They're already doing what they're called stealth QE, which is they're already doing stuff that people are already thinking is quantitative easing, which is, again, quantitative easing is a type of money printing. In during COVID, it came in the form of stimulus checks. But this time they're already starting QE. We already averted the trade crisis, like we saw that happen in April, where now the U.S. and China arguably have a stronger trade relations. Again, I'm just trying to paint this picture here for you guys that, of course, we could go into that bear market that everybody's scared about. But if you look at the bear markets of the past, of the real signs, the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index, the sentiment where everybody was bullish, thinking we're going to go into a super cycle. Now it's the complete opposite. Price action's the complete opposite. We have institutions for the first time. Like I said, those regulators are creating regulatory clarity for the first time, and we have an actual strong macro environment with the S&P 500 still strong. I think all of this points to, again, the very high likelihood that we're going to end up seeing a bit more downside in Bitcoin, maybe to 90, 92K, 95K, anywhere between there, and then a bottom and very likely new all-time highs in probably Q1. Who knows? Timing's always tough, but I think I'm very bullish into the end of the year, into Q1. Again, based on everything I just laid out there. So let me know what you guys think in the chat. I'm assuming we got Nigma here. Okay, yeah, I heard feedback from my producer here, so I'm assuming Nigma, you with us, brother? I see that your internet is kind of low. Okay, perfect. Oh, okay, awesome. So no, I'm doing well. I just got informed that I'm talking to Nigma behind the scenes, but he has not been pulled up to the thing. Pull him up. Are we ready to go with Nigma or no? Okay, awesome. Pulling up Nigma now. For those of you guys don't know, we're going to take a little bit of a break. Let me know what you guys thought of that in the chat. Does that make sense to you? Breaking down everything I did with the fundamentals, the regulations, the institutions, the charts. Do you agree? Do you how do you see it? Do you think we're going to continue down into a bear market? What are the what you're looking for, targets, all that, while we pull up and introduce my good friend Nigma here. Nigma, can you hear me, brother?
Good morning,
Oh no.
evening, afternoon.
Yeah, it's kind of, I can barely hear you, brother. Yeah. Okay. He's just got to pop back. Oh wow.
Yeah.
You're
Let me do this again.
Whoa, you're already back in. Okay. All right. Let me see. While we get that settled up, I'm gonna go and check the chat. Bullish on the midterm, says Javi. Do you think we bounce in December and dump before the holidays? I don't know about dump before the holidays, but I would not be surprised if we dump or if we're bouncing in December. Oh, that's right. Okay. I was talking about on Friday, we're having Hemdog and we're having my boy Jaden on Tuesday after that. That's right. Hemdog in the chat. Hemdog with the repost. Appreciate you, brother. First time in the stream. I think we're still bullish. Just a mixture of shakeout, sentiment, and negative press. Okay. P says there's no way. There's too many bullish catalysts for it to be the top. I agree. Been DCing since February. I committed to my first crypto cycle. Even though so far I've been cooked, I'll continue to DCA. Yeah. And I didn't really touch on what I'm doing, guys. Like I said, I'm slowly building an ETH long position with tight stops right now. I will be adding more heavily on signs of a slowdown. Again, the number one thing that always shows us the end of really any correction or any move is some type of consolidation or on the top or bottom to end it out. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. Like I pulled up earlier, maybe if you just popped in, what we saw at the end of the corrections in March of 24. I'm sorry, the March of 25 and 2024 correction was consolidation. The way I'm playing this, guys, strictly is the way I've been playing it all along. I put out this tweet before, and I think the biggest thing that everybody should focus on this next leg, and why I've had the luxury to add so much. You always see me talking about DCAing, is because for the first time, really ever, this year I was very diligent on taking partial profits on the way up. On my Pengu position, 9x, 4x on pump, 7x on USDUC, which again, we all caught here on the stream together before they went up. Let me know if you say USDUC, Pengu, pump, if you caught that in the chat with us. But anyway, took profits on the way up. So I've been able to add slowly on the way down, like I have over the last month. I think we said on the stream with Nigma last time that if we were to crack below or near 100, I'm going to go more, harder on the DCAing. So I've just been adding to my really ETH and Sol and Bitcoin with stables and the movement memes, the 4 or 5 movement memes that I think, just like we saw in 24 and then in April, come out of these corrections with real movements and communities behind them. Again, I think most memes during these times always die, right? Just like anything. But there's a select few group of diamond-handed communities that always come out. So I'm talking the SPX, Gigas, Mogs, ticker Bitcoin, Pengu, USDUC, of course, and then a few other infrastructure coins, really the pump, the hypes. I think I'm really, again, maybe last year I wouldn't have said this, but like I'm really bullish on flywheels, on companies or coins that have real revenue, right? Pump actually has real revenue. Hype obviously has real revenue. There's going to become a bunch of companies that probably create tokens over the next few years that tie the token to their revenue and have flywheels. I'm very bullish on that. So really, what I've been doing and what I'm going to continue to do is not get crazy. I advise you, especially, I'm a big chart guy. I feel like I have a bit of an edge sometimes, but even I am going very, very slow with the leverage and adding heavier if I'm going to, still with reason when there's more consolidation in it added. So really, what I've been doing is just DCAing, staying calm, really looking at two things: past corrections and the stuff that's happening outside the charts has allowed me to stay sane and still remain incredibly, bullish and optimistic about 2026. So is Nigma with us now? Nigma, can you hear me, brother?
GM. Hopefully that's better, Brent. Is that better?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Let's go. Loud and clear. GM, everyone.
So remind us, you're in Australia. What time is it there right
now? It's actually a good time. It's not a bad time. It's 6 o'clock 20 past 6 in the morning. So it's actually Decent. It's decent. It's not goblin hours, my brother.
Yeah, some degenerates in here right now just heard 6 a.m. They're like, they're like, I went to sleep at 6 a.m. last night. No,
Yeah,
but
I bet probably haven't slept.
no, it's amazing.
Now,
So
but interesting, bro. They wake up to the markets, and we're seeing a flush, man. Bitcoin for the first time in a long time, dropping below 100K. So, yeah, be good to kind of chat through and see what I've been listening to you a little bit this morning. So, yeah, let's kick it.
amazing. Yeah, remember last time we were on, maybe what, like 3-4 weeks ago, we had talked about Bitcoin was still just consolidating, and I remember you had said, even if we were to drop through 90, that it wouldn't be something to worry about. And so I'm excited to hear about your thoughts of the past few weeks. If you guys are, weren't on the stream a few weeks ago or don't have the pleasure of knowing Nigma yet, this is Nigma. I'll let him give a little bit of a brief overview of himself, but Nigma is actually, he says, has educator in his bio. At first, when I first got to know him, I thought I was just a crypto educator. This guy's a legit teacher. He's actually teaching the youth of Australia. So,
Yeah.
super love to hear his style and of educating and teaching, and just the way he thinks. Been getting to know him a bit. So, Nigma, want to give them a brief overview about yourself before we
Sure,
start?
man. Sure. And GM to everyone in the chat. Yeah, I'm a teacher. I've been a teacher for a long time, and appreciate the comments, Bren. Look, it's something I love. Worked in many different fields within education, so I won't go into too much of that detail and bore the shit out of everyone. But trading is part of something that's a passion of mine, and I've kind of grown to love over the 6 years or so that I've been in crypto, and pre 2020, bull market, and kind of riding that wave, and seeing a real alt season, and kind of you could spray shit in any direction and you would probably hit something. So it was kind of a really good time, and now really kind of navigating this market, and has been really great as well. Like the last 3 years for Bitcoin, obviously we've been in a really sick uptrend with really clear swings on high time frames that you could trade, and even just buying spot and holding through these waves would have been really profitable for most people if you were knowledgeable enough. And so it's really just about how can I educate people to find some high value setups and things like that, and actually have some conviction. Yeah, there's trenching and a bit of degeneracy thrown in the mix of that, but really how can you use this skill of trading eventually across multiple markets, so that you can transfer that knowledge, not just in crypto. Crypto is great because it's 24/7, but there's a lot more consistency in other markets. So if you can learn here, you can and execute here, you can execute anywhere.
Absolutely. No, yeah, I agree. I think chart wise, like everywhere, I think you can apply a lot of what you learn from other places into crypto, but also crypto just teaches you like a whole new level of things that just aren't even there in other places. NFT Jimmy, before we go on and talk about what Nigma thinks about the last few weeks, NFT Jimmy, I don't know if you thought or if you saw what I said about, you asked about invalidation. To me, if really the biggest thing is if what differentiates any of these past corrections from past corrections from what we're seeing, these corrections we've seen in throughout the bull market that kept going higher, and what we saw in the bull market top of 2021, the cycle top, was how fast and impulsive the move down was, right? So in November 2021, Bitcoin came down from, I'm sorry, yeah, that's right, came down from 78K to 30K in a matter of 6 or 7 weeks. As you can see here on the last corrections in 2024, Bitcoin came down about 15-20%, but just showed this corrective like coiled up structure, which is a lot more corrective in nature, which, yes, it came down 30%, but it took 6 months or 3 or 4 months to get there. If to answer your question, if Bitcoin were to slice like right through 80K and then confirmed like a 30-35% correction in a matter of like a week or two, and showed more impulsive behavior and less like these coil ups of the past, then that would be a different story. But all things considered, the stuff I laid out here, if you're just hopping in a second ago, you can watch it back. The charts, which are still playing out, but all the fundamental stuff, the institutional involvement, the regulatory clarity, the macro situation, I think being the biggest one, is pointing to very likely this playing out very similar to how we saw in April and summer of 24, where I think we bottom out very likely. It's hard to say. I don't really care the price, to be honest. I'll play it wherever it lies or wherever it ends up playing out, but maybe into the high 90s, low 90s even I could see. But I think we're going to end up getting more like that. To answer your question, like if it's sliced through like 80, 85K in a matter of a couple weeks, like if we came back on this next Tuesday stream and we're at 80, that's a different story. But Nigma, obviously the last couple of weeks has been nuts. Bitcoin consolidated, came back down a couple weeks ago, down to that 104 level, bounced back up, gave people a little bit more hope, and then is coming back down one more time, or coming back down again. Obviously down at sub 100 now. Just hit sub 100 here, just right now, I think.
Yeah.
I was telling the guys that I think very likely, we're probably, if I had to guess, of course, anything could play out around the February, March of 2025 land, and probably end up bouncing at some point. But just overall, what are your thoughts on this last week? How are you playing it? How do you see the charts? I mean, just thoughts overall.
Yeah. Look, I think that the chop has been, relatively consistent up until obviously the last couple of hours. And so generally, just kind of sitting on my hands. It's really, if you're trying to trade leverage and things like that in these kind of conditions, especially, and I think, and just reading about the Clarity Act over the last week or so, and kind of getting a clearer picture, pardon the pun, but about what it actually would contribute to the space. Is bullish in the sense of what currently exists. So if you're looking at a lot of these perps exchanges that are wash trading, and essentially wash trading, so they're liquidating on both sides of the market. So just, and also with the kind of this perps meta that evolved over the last month or so after CZ and Asta and all that kind of stuff. It's you've got to really just kind of be patient in these moments, and many seasoned traders will tell you that being not being in a trade is just as important as being in a trade. So for me, just really watching. I think the fallout from 1010 is still in play. I think that event was a significant event. I think we'll look back, in probably in a couple of years to come, however the markets kind of move, as a significant event. Whether this was the signal of the bear market or a deeper correction, time will tell. But definitely sitting on my hands. I did post a tweet, I think, a few times over the last couple of weeks that, these key levels this week in particular, and also the level just below 90, I think, what is it, around 98K. It's just too tantalizing a prospect. I think there'll be a tweet somewhere where I just drew just a liquidity line. Somewhere like that. That tweet there is, it would have been great to see on that high time frame for that to be a swing, but obviously, not to be. But even watching Bossman just, drop a tweet and a post around that most of the spot selling right now is coming from Binance. So, whether that, there's some, there's some definite manipulation going on at the moment. But again, also there are clear levels that are being targeted. So, I'll just be watching where the dust settles here. There's a key level above that I'd be watching to see if it's a resistance that breaks above, which would be whether we get a bearish retest there, and nothing changes. If you're a perma bull or whatever, or you're constantly bullish, flip the chart, invert the chart, and trade the chart that way. You know what I mean? Like there's still money to be made. You just be on the short side of the market if we do go into a deeper correction. So, staying away from alts and things like that might be the play. Buying dips and DCAing might be the play. But definitely, capitalizing on some of these short positions is also a definite play. So that's what I'll be watching. Oh, I hope it.
My bad, guys. I was muted. But
That's right.
So Nigma, you're obviously a big chart guy. What are some of the invalidations or anything you'd be looking at right now? Just I know you're I don't you said right now you'd probably be looking for short opportunities. I don't know if you're looking for short opportunities right now, but what would you have to see maybe a price move, something that would kind of get you into the, okay, I think now is the time to look for pullbacks to the upside to go shorter into 80, 70, 60? Or what would you like to see to be the opposite side of that, where it's like, okay, where there's clearly that we're, bottomed out and going up? Is it momentum back to the upside? Kind of what are some stuff you're looking for on both sides?
Um, well, I think first and foremost, definitely looking at this sweep of this liquidity here. I think 98, that swing low at 98k, kind of that was the the order block slash that broke that all time high, and this range that we're in. It's the weekly range that I kind of talked about a few weeks ago, which is inside a deeper monthly range if you go on a monthly time frame. And so, I did even I think talk about this monthly range from if you go from the swing to the 4 month candles there, so from the bottom of the green candle to the top, that bottom one, so from wick to the top of that whole move, that range there, if you look at it on the fib levels, PD arrays, whatever you want to call them, we're approaching that 50%, which is around 98k. So any kind of dips into this range, which is then confluent with a that high time frame monthly order block, which is a huge $30,000 price box, if you want to call it that. Again, because I trade price action. But again, you'll be looking for setups within that area of demand, and which would be in a discount PD array. So my invalidation would, to be honest, would be anywhere below 74,000. We close below 74,000, that'll be it, because that's the range on a higher time frame monthly. So we're bullish for the time being.
Damn it! I don't even remember. That's crazy. I don't even remember muting that time. I need to just keep it on. But 90. So you're pretty much saying 98k. It's a level you're looking at. Start the range to start trading into. You would start looking for short setups, and then 74k is a line in the sand. If we go under that, very likely we're looking at a longer term bull or bear. I'm sorry, and not that multi-week correction we've seen before.
Yeah. Well, at the moment, I mean, what I'm kind of more alluding to, the fact is where would I be, my invalidation in terms of the bull market being over, so to speak, if it is over.
Yeah.
74k is definitely that level, which is the bottom of that range. That's on a higher time frame. That's on a monthly time frame, so that's going to take a while to get out there. But at the moment, what I'm looking at is within this monthly range. Any buy, any kind of setups that are forming, or a swing, a higher low forming within 98k and 85k, I'm still bullish.
Okay.
Anything below that, then any retest. So if we get a close below the 74k, and then it pumps back up into some sort of demand, and we get a bearish retest, that's probably your short trigger that we're going to go lower.
Okay, gotcha.
But for now, still bullish. The thesis remains intact. Obviously, looking at both sides of the market, I think it's got to, any trader or any person there, really important that you're looking at all, possibilities, and then you make your judgments according to those. Otherwise, you can have bear goggles on, or bull goggles on, and you'll miss setups, because your bias is always leaning one way. And it's great to be bullish when the conditions are bullish, but it's also it's good to be bearish if the conditions are bearish, because there's money to be made on both sides.
What would you say to somebody who doesn't use leverage at all in these times? Do you suggest? Because I always have to I just really big on just like taking profits on the way up, so that of course, it's an ideal world. Sometimes there is no profits for a fucking 6 months, like there has been, but in an ideal world, taking profits on the way up so that you don't have to, panic sell on the way down. Was somebody who's not using leverage, though, who's just not, going to short to the downside, they're just not going to use leverage. What would you advise them to do during this time? Is to DCA, and obviously not advise, but would be some strategy somebody could go about it that's not using leverage? Would be DCAing. Do you advise people to sell and then potentially hopefully buy back lower? How would you go about it if you weren't using leverage, during these times, just spot wise?
Yeah, sure. And I think for educational purposes, if we're looking at it from that perspective, it's really about your what your risk is, what your capital is like, and what your intention is. If you're trying to make quick money here, um, looking at Bitcoin at the moment, it's probably unless you've got a huge port, it's probably not going to be something that you want to do. But for me personally, it's looking for levels and then DCAing and having specific percentages of my port dedicated. For example, for Bitcoin, you always want to be heavier on Bitcoin than anything else, right? So you want to have some stables always. You want to have some free capital so that you can actually capitalize on these sorts of moves. But then your port as a hedge against everything else nuking. And we saw on 1010 what happened to alts when Bitcoin dropped 20%. They got obliterated.
Yep.
And I think that's the fallout that we're still experiencing now. Is there's a lot of people that got rinsed from that, and even seasoned traders that I know. And so, you might have 15, 10%, whatever of your port that you're looking at a particular level that you want to DCA. And then as the price moves to another, point of interest or POI or whatever it might be, you can then, make some judgments as to how much more you put in. But it's really up to you in terms of what your strategy is. If you're thinking, okay, this is something that I want to hold for the next 5 or 10 years. If you want to hold it for the 5 or 10 years, then it really doesn't matter where you buy if you believe that
Yeah.
Bitcoin's going to $1 million.
Yeah, exactly. The same kind of thing. Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, I think, at this point, even a bear market, if we were to go down for a year and a half, but holding those things is fine. It's these other stuff that most people were in, that got rinsed, that I think is having people feel so tired. But I want to get to the questions. There's some people who were asking stuff like 30 minutes ago. I do want to hear your thoughts on the other coins, potentially some stuff you're DCAing, some stuff you think may bounce back when we do get a recovery, and NFTs as well, because that's a lot. But I want to get to some questions real quick. Is that cool with you,
Yeah,
Nick?
go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Perfect. Metro says, "What's up, brother? I've got some bids at 98K and a few around 93. This looks super similar to the April correction. So bullish for, yeah, that's essentially, I think what I'm more leaning towards too, taking everything into account. We have to see everything play out. The number one thing that I would want to see to confirm we're seeing an April type correction, and that final piece of the puzzle really is the consolidation. We saw it here. Like I said, this box that I have formed in July to September of 24, which is 3 months of holding between 53K and 65, and then shifting off of that. That's really what we'd like to see after a big move like this to kind of confirm that the bottom's in. Of course, you could always get the COVID type V-shaped recovery, which is a lot less likely than consolidation. So, yes, I do think that's probably what we're going to end up seeing, all things considered. But we want to see that consolidation first to confirm a bottom. Let me see. Oh, I see it goes up, comes down. So those are like bull flags. Yeah, the corrective channels are similar to bull flags, wedges. What recap did I miss on Bitcoin and Sol? You can go back and watch. I broke down not just chart wise, but with the institutional stuff, with macro situation, regulatory clarity, a bunch of stuff together on why I think we're not in 2021 anymore, and why the data, chart, fundamentals are pointing to very likely a kind of short-lived correction, kind of ending probably in the next few, weeks or months, but we'll have to see. I believe Sol will also come down to 120 when Bitcoin's at 95. Yeah, we'll see. Devin says, where do you think we're headed from here? Go ahead and watch back at the top, brother, but you have no idea how much clarity I get with these streams. I appreciate you being here, Mr. G. Nigma, second time. Nice. What's up? View about this. What's his view about this dip? I think we already talked about that. Do you think people should start purchasing digital products like ebooks and courses with crypto? Yeah, I mean, that's really up to you, right? I think USDUC. I think there's gonna be more optionality for that for sure. It made sense as a human. I got scared. Happy to be here in the stream again. Let me make sure I don't miss any of your guys' questions. Heard Pengu did amazing. Let's go UFD. Let's see. I really got scared. Bitcoin's below 100K now. Manipulation by major players, institutional investors with the aim of buying at a price. Yeah, so I'll start with that. Nigma, you mentioned manipulation earlier. I hadn't caught Bossman's post earlier, but I think yet because I've been on stream, but we oftentimes do see this guy Marty. I don't know if you know this guy. Probably a lot of you guys do. This guy Marty. He often tracks a lot at Marty Party. He tracks a lot of the
Market
Bitcoin
Party, yeah.
tracks a lot of the Bitcoin liquidation levels and kind of what's happening during these corrections. Give me 1 second here. Hold on 1 second. Hey, I apologize, guys, but Marty Party, yeah, he tracks the liquidation levels and also a lot of this on-chain stuff that's happening during these crises. And a lot of times you'll see sell-offs from Binance, a lot of this stuff from this wallet. So I'm not surprised. He tends to think that Binance, when they're done selling, they kind of really have a lot to do with determining the at least the short-term sell-offs. And a lot of stuff you can read into, but would not be surprised, to see activity from them coming there. But a lot of people talk about manipulation. I've said on the stream here before that, of course, I think there's always going to be insider people with insider advantages in every single market, whether it's a prediction market, a crypto coin, a meme coin, especially stocks, even, and that's valid. And definitely people taking advantage. But I think that's just the reality of markets. And I think a lot of people just hear manipulation and they just internalize it and just use it as an excuse to not make it happen. What are your thoughts on the manipulation happening now and just overall crypto manipulation? Do you think it's like an epidemic that's, you know, really holding down the industry, or what are your thoughts on crypto manipulation when you first hear that?
To be honest, I probably should have used a different word. I wouldn't necessarily say it's manipulation. I think it's smart traders. Really, it's what it is.
Yeah.
It's people that have got huge size, whether they be institutions selling, whether they're whales selling, whether they're exchanges selling, or whatever it is. It's smart money. Doing what it does. There's market makers in all markets, and they want to buy, they want to sell high and they want to buy low. So when we I think manipulation is probably, as I said, not the best word to use here.
Yeah.
Direct manipulation is usually pretty much found out, and we saw that with the Argentina coin and all that sort of stuff that came out. That was direct manipulation that we know, and
Mhm.
I think this is just normal behavior for Bitcoin. And I think when you get so glued to the lower time frames, that for people that are been in a single cycle or haven't been this is their first cycle, you're probably thinking, yeah, this is manipulation. But really, when you zoom out on a weekly time frame, on a monthly time frame, it looks very different. And I think that's what I talked about last stream, or I talked about in a video that I shoot for the boys in another group, is you've got to start with that bird's eye zoomed out perspective, and then just look and just stay there for a bit, and then block out the noise, because as soon as you get into anything shorter, on a shorter time frame, and particularly also most of the time people that are on the timeline screaming whatever it is don't even hold fucking Bitcoin. They don't hold any yet, but they're worried about what's happening with Bitcoin, and it's just like, chill, bro. Like,
Yeah.
Bitcoin's had, you look at 2020, and the pullbacks that it had before it ran to its second, the double top, that was a 50% pullback. Like, and we've had from the high right now, Bitcoin's pulled back, 20%.
I'm glad you said that too. If you look at ETH and Sol, definitely 2020 was even worse. But then you look at just this year, like Sol came down from ETH. Yeah, Sol came down from 269 all the way down to below 100, 60%. And yes, it could always get worse, and it probably will get a little bit worse from here at least. But right now we're down 30. It's not even half as bad as this one went from here. Everybody's obviously way more panicked because of how tired everybody is. I think it's really fucked people up is that Bitcoin, everything was down beginning of the year. Bitcoin came out for a few months, but a few memes moved. Other than that, the rest of the market's just been slow. So it's been compounding corrections on top of each other. I think people are tired, but just like, I'm glad you said that there. If you zoom out and really take everything into perspective, not only was 2021 worse in some of these pullbacks, but even just earlier this year, we had a correction that was twice as bad.
Mm.
And I think just it's important to put into perspective.
Yeah, and I think the trenches have like completely just obliterated
Yeah,
everybody's actual market psychology, and so they try to transfer when you've just been ingrained and addicted to the fucking cocaine that is the trenches, and you come and then look at something like Bitcoin, you're like, oh, just people don't know they just don't know how to manage that, and that part of trading, being able to actually manage your emotional kind of mindset and your grit and your utilizing your skill sets in these sorts of conditions. um, if you don't know how to do that, you're gonna look for a rope. That's what you're gonna do. And so, for me, just business as usual. We watch what happens. You be patient, and then you capitalize on setups that like you've got your own trading setup style, or a particular um, you know um, what you look for for your trade setups, and so do
yeah.
I, and so do every trader, and we look for those. And if it means I've got to wait and not be in a trade for a week, I'm happy to do that. It means more time with my family, and less time in on the screens.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think if you can't wait like days or sometimes weeks without taking a position or just holding in your position, I think you're cooked. But let
Yeah,
me.
there's this mentality that you've got to always be in a trade. And I think that's what's happened from the trenches. The 2 years of just constant, just buying into coins. Like, imagine if you just counted the transaction, volume over. Obviously it's in decline, but man, the don't stop clicking was an epidemic. And so, yeah, I can see why people always got to be in a trade. But like I said previously, not being in a trade is just as important.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, oh, I actually didn't pull it up on the thing earlier, but I think a lot of what I think is going to contribute to meme coins and crypto in general going crazy in the next few years is just the epidemic of gambling and speculation. And I love the
Mm,
gambling stuff. I think obviously is coming really overheated, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of stuff, regulations on that.
I
Um,
agree.
but I think if anything, that's going to lead a lot of those people to go into meme coins and crypto. And I think crypto and meme coins in general, and right now we call them meme coins, but really what I'm bullish on is the ones that have movements behind them, that actually have like USDUC, and the ones that actually have movements and people are actually trying to build something other than just like price go up. I think that's going to rise and become a huge thing in society, because not only the speculation part but the community part. I think as AI takes over, people are going to be looking for places to belong. Unemployment's going to go up, all these different things I think is going to push people more into this type of stuff. Do you have any thoughts on that? In general, do you think meme coins, and you mentioned the trenches, that's kind of why I brought it up. Do you think they're cooked in general? I mean, what are your thoughts on memes and trenches whenever we do get out of this?
Um, look, I again, I kind of lean towards, cycle theory, and so I kind of think that perhaps at the moment we're in that kind of bottom phase of the cycle of memes, and I think there will be a resurgence at some point, and possibly, there'll be some mechanisms or tokenomics that will be implemented that will just limit the way coins are treated and abused and obliterated by traders. I don't know how that will be. There'll be some smarter dudes than me that can actually figure that out, and so it's just a time, and it's just a waiting. I think there'll definitely be a resurgence because, as I said, and this is what I agree with Murad about, meme culture. It's part of our kind of every, and I think I said this last time. It's just part of our society. Kids are using it in the schools. They communicate via, we use gifs all the time, and like it's just ingrained. It's almost like a language in itself, and so people will be drawn to that. It's just how these trenches have evolved, and just like what happened last cycle with NFTs, everything was great until blur farming started, and then we saw what happened there, and we saw a lot of a lot of NFT projects just the whole market kind of just collapsed after that. So, and some people disagreed, and some people agreed, and whatever the opinion was. So, I think the trenches will definitely come, have their day again. It just might look a little bit different. That's kind of where I'm leaning to.
Interesting. We don't have to go too much into it, but how do you think that different could look? You just mean like less like euphoric and less like pump and dumpy, or
I don't know. Maybe again going back to mechanisms that will kind of entice people to hold for longer, and whether they're generating some sort of yield from holding as opposed to constantly selling. I don't know, some way where, or whether there's, again, we're in a kind of decentralized, freely open market, right? Where you can trade as you will, but that's kind of that. Therein lies the problem, and it's kind of a catch-22 because while we want coins and prices to go up, um, people are buying at 7K, 14K, and then running it and then just nuking on every single chart recently. You can barely clear a 10 mil consistently.
yeah,
So whether there's just more mechanisms by devs, or really smart people that know tokenomics in a way that can enhance holding a little bit more, so that you get penalized for selling or selling larger quantities or whatever it might be. Something.
okay, interesting. Just more mechanisms like that. Yeah, I think over time, Pump Fun will add stuff like that to make it more of like a social experience, and just I'm sure there's a lot like anything, a lot more utility and stuff that can come from all of this, other than just like trading and just with the actual coins themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be interesting
And
a
it's
lot.
and it's kind of like last cycle we saw. Remember, like there was certain NFTs, and this is where I think the possibility for whether they're digital assets or things like that, where they start bridging into real world assets. So
Yeah,
you're holding this particular NFT, let's say it's a Pudgy, and they partner with the NBA, right? And then you can go to any game in America, normal seats because you own a Pudgy or whatever it might be. And so,
yeah,
for those that want to actually get the, but then there's obviously, some mechanisms that will, stop people from, gaming that system. But, you want to hold it because it gives you perks in the real world.
exactly. And I
So
want to
that's
talk about
kind of,
I want to talk about NFTs here in a second. Obviously, big flush out in them this week as well.
yeah.
Somebody asked real quickly, just give me a signal to buy the last dip with 20%. I will say, like we went over here a second ago, I'm not gonna DM you a signal when it happens. But if you
I'll
look
DM you, bro. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
yeah, no, Nigma's got you. Actually, DM him
Yeah.
after the stream. He'll no, I'm just playing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
no, but Nigma or one thing I said before Nigma got on here was number one thing I'm looking for to really solidify a bottom would be just like any of these type of corrections is some type of consolidation, distribution. The only kind of correction we usually get, Sol is kind of notorious for V-shaped bottoms actually, at least the last couple of years. But most often on most of these assets, you're going to get some type of consolidation, like we saw here last in March and April, where Bitcoin held 77K for about a month and a half. In 2024, it held 55K for 3 months. I think that's kind of what you're looking for to kind of confirm that we slowed down and potentially maybe reverse back to the upside. Let me catch up to a few more. What's up, Pichetto? How you doing? If you guys could, before we go into NFTs and a few other things, if you could please like, retweet, comment, bookmark, share this with your friends. It's a crazy time. We're going over a few different scenarios as well as kind of how we see the next couple months playing out, some different stuff we're looking at. Before Nigma got on, I did break down the bull case for 2026, not just the charts, which are still obviously manifesting and playing out, but also with the institutional, macro, regulatory stuff, how very potentially or how very likely points to a short-lived April type correction versus a longer term bear market. If you're kind of interested in that, or if you're interested in have thoughts on that, definitely check that out. Make sure to get your comments and questions in the stream as well, especially for Nigma. We'll definitely get to that. What is a
Yeah.
movement meme? Movement meme is essentially some people call them cults. I like to call them movements. Essentially, is when there's a coin that there's a movement behind it other than just price go up. USDUC, usually there's some bigger goal or some mimetic ceiling behind it. USDUC, they want to flip the stable coin market cap. SPX 6900, the most obvious one. There's a movement behind it. They want to flip the stock market. MOG is obviously a movement. When you see like a bigger cult, like hardcore group behind it, that's not during these corrections is still hardcore rating and involved. That's more of a movement. I think those have more of a opportunity to inspire people over time and form more of an army versus some of these singular memes like Peanut or even the AI stuff, where when price goes down, kind of nobody's really talking about it or gives a shit about it.
Yeah, and these movement, just to add on to what you're saying, like these movement coins almost turn into a meme in themselves. You know, when they're originally dropped, it's kind of, you know, a bit funny, but then, you know, as the movement or the cult or the community grows, and they continue to just, you know, share their shit on the timeline, it becomes a meme. And like USDUC is a prime example where, you know, it's just almost evolved into this meme of you know, flipping the stable coin market. And you see people posting unstable. I think I saw the main I forget his name, starts with Y, for USDUC, and there was some post about some shenanigans with some dude with young people or whatever, and he was like, this is unstable coin doesn't solve this, because usually unstable coin solves everything.
Yeah.
And so it turns into it turns into a meme in itself. And MOG is a prime example. SPX 6900, all these sorts of things end up becoming these memes.
Yeah, you're talking about Yu Gyong. I can't even
Yeah,
pronounce. Yeah, he's a
that
great
post.
guy. Love that
Yeah.
guy. He's a super like great bag worker, but he's also just a chill guy. We're gonna have him on the stream here soon too.
Yeah, that's sick. Yeah, and that I always, you know, shout out to you, like people that just continually grind. My boy Shred, who you might see doing some cooking shorts from time to time. He's been bag working for Let It Cook for ages, not shilling my bag
You
here.
said
I
Shred.
don't own. Yeah, Shred. He's another Aussie guy.
What's his at?
Like I
You
don't.
know?
It's at the Shred, or the Shred, I think his ad is. Um, he used to like where he kind of came, like he's been around the same time as me, and he, when Arbitrum was pumping and we had Small Verse and Small Brains and all that sort of stuff, he used to shred his shirts. Like he would do these epic videos, like jumping off a cliff into a water pot and then just shred a shirt. And so that kind of name stuck. But he's doing these really sick cooking little shorts for, you know, for Let It Cook, and just constantly bag working. And I really respect people that do that, you know, and people like that need to be supported. And so yeah, that's just a little shout out to him. But yeah, the other fella, what was his name? Yugi.
Oh, you. I can't even pronounce it, but it's I'll
Yeah,
pull
yeah,
it.
that me either. That's why I didn't want to even say it.
Yeah, I don't want
Yu-Gi-Oh. I just keep saying Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yu Gong. Yeah, Yu Gong.
Yugong, yeah.
Yeah, no, he's just him and a few other people alone just got me really like into the USDUC at 7 million, and definitely we'll come down pretty close to there now, but got a nice like 7-8x gain on there. Still pretty long, still long term believer in USDUC of the few.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see right now, even just looking at the charts, and you look at Bitcoin, for example, and this is why, you know, you've got to really be careful when you're holding alts and things like that. If you're really alt heavy in your bags, like Bitcoin's dropping what 5%, I think 5.6, and ETH's down 11, Sol's 8, and then if you go to, you know, some of the alts and then into memes, you've got, you know, Pengu down almost to 10, Trolls down 12. You know, Flog's down 20%. Whiff is down. Like you know, they get, you know, twice as much, 3 times, 4 times as much downside when Bitcoin just dips. So you got to be careful, and you got to be managing that risk accordingly. And that's why, like you said earlier, bro, you know, buying into the pumps and selling into the pumps and taking profits and things like that is so important. You know, you don't want a round trip. Taking profits is the reason we are here. You can still be a community member if you want.
Exactly. I think, I say this every stream, but the number one thing you can set yourself up for whenever we do end up coming out of this is develop a profit taking strategy right now. It's really simple, just taking profits on the way up, but having it written down on a piece of paper where you follow, or on your notes app where you follow no matter what happens. Whenever the coin hits this price, I'm taking this percentage off. It allows you to turn this into more of a systematic game and less of like guessing and vibe trading, because vibe trading is going to get you wrecked, right? Most, as we've seen, most people's vibes are not vibes alone are not really accurate predictors of, investing, whatever. Somebody asked about Bitcoin dominance, but yeah, set up a profit taking strategy. Um, all the best traders, he kind of touched it on it right there. All the best in trade. Okay, there's investors who are long term investors who kind of outperform most people, but when you're talking traders, people who are going in and out of stuff, great traders are great profit takers. You're talking about an NFTs where like Cyrus or any of these top dogs and any of these different new up and coming things, they're great profit takers. But he said it right there as well. You don't have to choose. You don't have to. It's not necessarily trade. Don't trade, believe in something. You can trade and believe in something, right? Like you can have long term, you want to skew more towards the investing and the long term stuff, right? But you can trade these meme coins, even the ones you have long term belief in, take partial profits on the way up, still hold a bag no matter where it goes, you're fine, and you can re-add during these times if you choose to. So if you could take anything from the last few minutes, is form a profit taking system right now before everything comes back. Somebody asked about Bitcoin dominance. So I've been talking about this on the stream here. If you zoom out on the higher time frames, Bitcoin dominance was in a, it bottomed out again. What is the number one predictor or the number one sign that something's going to bottom out and reverse is consolidation. As you can see, Bitcoin dominance consolidated from May 2021 to November 2022, which is about a year and a half, reversed from 40%, went all the way to 65% in a choppy manner. To me, this was pretty corrective. That's why I was expecting a move out of this. We got that impulsive move lower in June of 2025, which again was the first impulsive move to the downside, which is like the first move with follow through to the downside that Bitcoin dominance has seen since 2021. If you've seen here, I guess you could say this one was, but that was part of a consolidation or a bottom. To me, what that signifies is very likely a trend change in Bitcoin dominance. Okay. And to kind of put icing on the cake, I think what we've seen here in September 2025 is on the lower timeframes, very choppy in nature, incorrective. And I've been saying I think we're going to see one more move to this upside of this kind of slanting channel. You hear me talk about corrective channels, most of the time slanted to the downside. Same concept here to the upside, chopping up slowly, corrective behavior. What that tells me is very likely, as long as we don't power right through here to like 60% with a fat green candle, I think we're going to top out here with Bitcoin, ETH Sol bottoming out, and probably come down 60, maybe between here and 65, probably comes down and starts its next continuation to the downside. That's kind of my base case. Anything could happen. Invalidation of this is if we filled probably this wick to the upside here with a fat green candle. I think that would be kind of come along with that, 70K Bitcoin and like bull market invalidation we were talking about. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for. I think if we zoom out here in a couple months, Bitcoin dominance is going to be lower, which is going to coincide really with ETH really going up, I think. Okay, perfect.
Send it.
What's your thoughts on BNB memes, especially with tokens like Aster? I think I don't know. What are your thoughts on like Aster and all the BNB type stuff right now?
Me personally,
Yeah,
I've stayed clear of it.
yeah,
I saw it last cycle. This similar narrative. It happened almost identically where BNB had its run and all that kind of stuff. And whether it's cope or just being sidelined, but I steered my attention into just different coins, focused on hype
yeah,
and pump and just really ETH and Sol and Bitcoin and just trading majors and then sticking to more established memes and a few trades that caught during that time. Chill House was one. Purely just off the back of the banter between Chill House and Kobe, and rode that way from I think 4 mil called it and to whatever 26 mil or whatever it ran to. So
there we go.
yeah, I called that in mind gain. So, but yeah, like I mean, just looking, being really selective, but yeah, for BNB, I stayed clear of it, and won't necessarily comment too much on Asta. I think the proof is really in the pudding, and even CZ's $2 million purchase, what has that done for the chart? It was probably, I haven't even looked at it, to be honest, and I would assume that it's not doing great.
Yeah, I think overall, like during these shitty conditions, you see this. I use Elon Musk as best example. His Doge tweets during the 2021 bear market, 22 bear market, really like the last time he was tweeting about it, doesn't do anything. But during a bull market, when conditions are good, it
Yeah,
does something. Same thing with the CZ thing, dude. He's not Jesus, like you know what I mean. He's not like Jesus. He's not
yeah,
God himself. Like he can send a tweet, but if conditions are bad, it's not really gonna do much.
that's
But
right.
zooming out overall, I think CZ getting pardoned to Binance, pardon from Trump is pointing to probably a Binance IPO, a further big thing there is that where I think overall CZ being involved with the Aster thing probably continues to drive mindshare, not just mindshare, but use his resources to build something there. So overall, it's probably a pretty decent bet. It's not one of my bigger ones, but I agree with you. Overall, I kind of stayed away from the BNB stuff. I didn't really have any edge there. I'm not really a low cap guy anyway, but especially when everything's in Chinese, I'm good. But
Yeah,
I want to talk about, I think you have to go in 10 or 15 minutes. I want to talk a little bit about
yeah,
NFTs. But before we do that, obviously Nigma is on Twitter. I really love a lot of his stuff on charts. He gives, like myself, I think that's why him and I continue to like to do these streams together, think similarly in a lot of ways. Not only does he put out a lot of good chart stuff, but a lot of different tips and stuff, and just different talking from his experience that he's learned over the years. Besides Twitter, is there anywhere that people can find you? We'll talk about Mind Gains, but just you personally, on any other platforms, or just kind of Twitter right now?
no, just generally Twitter and just on Telegram with the boys and things like that, and yeah, like generally on Twitter. And as I said last stream, just I'll amongst the shit posting and just sometimes crap that I post, generally trying to give some people some knowledge and advice that might allow them to kind of think from a different perspectives. And there's so many different pieces of advice that you get from from people in crypto, and some of the best accounts aren't necessarily always the biggest accounts.
Yep.
So there are a ton of accounts that are quite small, that share some really great knowledge and have a really good niche or a pocket that they've found. And so yeah, like generally I'm on Twitter, little bit in TG, obviously, like you said, Mind Gains, and appreciate the mention. So check it out. If you want to come in, just DM me, and you want to see what's going on, by all means, and we can have a chat. But really, it's not just a meme coin trading hub, because my focus isn't just always on meme coins. It's looking at other plays and setups and things like that. So, we've got Kick in there as well. We've got Haku in there. We've got Ash and we've got Nez. We've got a bunch of boys in there that are just, quite knowledgeable in terms of charting and finding narratives. Elite Mo's in there as well. So some good crew. And yeah, it's just about helping people kind of navigate this space and find an edge. That's really the key.
Yeah, amazing. Great group of guys in there that I can vouch for. FOMO, great. Obviously, Nigma,
Yeah, FOMO, of course, yes.
Elitamo, Kick, all those great guys. I like also, obviously they have great, trade ideas and all that, but I like how they take the focus of focusing on the mindset, mind gains. And it's not just about the money. And if you want to make the most money, you got to get your mind right, right, Nigma.
Yeah, that's and that's exactly right. Like, and again, I touched on that I think last time, and it's
Yeah,
that's half the battle here. And if you're a trencher and you love looking at new pairs and all that's you. You just do you. And if you're successful and you're winning and you're profitable, then keep doing it. But if you're not, you've got to reassess, because eventually you will get burnt out and you will not come back. And if this is a space that you feel that's going to have a long term future, then you've got to be able to work out what works for you.
absolutely, absolutely. Mind gains definitely. So they can find you guys. They always have a Discord, right? Is that where you mostly run it out of? Yeah.
No, it's out of a Telegram
Oh,
group, so
Telegram.
you can follow the link there, and you can sign up. But look, I'm happy to get some crew in if they want to just feel get a bit of a trial, see what it's like. obviously the conditions are very different at the moment than
Yeah.
when it was all pumping. So we just you just got to take that as part of the journey, because we've got to adjust to the market conditions and things like that. So yeah, just hit me up. More than happy to get some crew in.
Hell yeah. Yeah, these are definitely not as many trading opportunities, but now are the best times to like get into groups like that and get to know people and you know, learn and all that different stuff.
Yeah,
I do
and
want
if you're not in the market, right? If you're not in the market, you can still be a participant of the market just by reading. I don't I don't know how many people actually just spend time to read shit, but there's so much stuff that you can be learning about, whether that be LP farming, whether that be airdrop farming, whether that be DeFi protocols, whether that be looking at new projects that are launching. There's enough accounts and things like that that you can search on Twitter of new ICOs dropping. What's some of the influencers slash KOLs talk, like decent ones that are actually talking about, like watching, listening to some of the spaces. There's always alpha to be shared on the timeline, and it's part of the reason why I'm on Twitter is because there's a lot of alpha that's shared there, believe it or not. And I'm not talking about CAs that are shared. I'm talking about actual really smart people sharing shit. And oftentimes you've got to get into the group, into the VCs or on the spaces, into these live streams and all this sort of stuff to hear it.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm always big on obviously interviews and long form content, but also spaces. Anytime where you can hear experts or people who have experience in what you're trying to learn talk for like longer form stuff. So that's amazing. You still have
Yeah,
a few
totally.
minutes left.
Yeah, I've got a couple minutes and then I've got to head, but yeah.
Perfect. NFTs. We'll click on that. Obviously had a huge washout the last few weeks. I think for me, it's just I think all of the mystique obviously has a lot to do with the market coming down too. People are dumping everything, but I think the mystique or like the big hype around the coins, around different Web3 utility, um, everything kind of wore off. And I think now everything's kind of at an equilibrium. We saw pretty much everything except VFriends, which is my biggest bet, like come down. Obviously we got saw Pudgy Penguins come down to what it was at now, 6. Let me go to the ETH ones. Pudgy's at 5.5, Bored Apes at 5.7, from the highs of 12, 13, 15 of a couple months ago. The way I'm looking at this really is I think everything's coming to an equilibrium. All the kind of the Web3 mystique and the Web3 like hype, the coins has kind of showed that there's no way that that's going to send speculation or not going to send these things back to $100,000, $200,000 alone. And when I see NFTs, the future NFTs, it's a future of collectability. The ones that are going to win are the ones that are building an ecosystem. At least we're talking about the IP ones, right? The art, the CryptoPunks they're off on their own. I'm talking about the IP, the Pudgy Penguins, Bored Apes, VFriends, Moonbirds, all that. All that's going to matter from here over the next 3 or 5 years are does the general public, the masses, give a fuck or give a shit about the actual IP itself? Does the founders behind it, are they able to create demand and people actually wanting to collect that NFT, right? And Gary Vee did that interview pretty timely yesterday with OpenSea talking about, I'll play the clip really quickly. Shit.
I know that today,
Awesome to see.
thank you, but the best part is I know that today I will work all day and somebody's going to buy a Pudgy Penguin or a Chimper or a Good Vibes Club in 2 years, because right now they know nothing about NFTs and I'm going to make them know about them.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Gary.
I'm here for this space. I'm doing the things that I think will help the space. And I think the things I'm doing in comics and cartoons and AI and trading cards and building out my team and like all the things we're doing, I think that's doing that.
I love it.
Awesome.
Pretty much, I think Gary's talked a lot about this, the last couple years in general, that it's all about collectability. Like Pokemon, the only reason those original cards are worth hundreds of thousands is because it's the most popular IP in the world. The only reason that Pudgies or VFriends, any of these things are going to be worth something in 5 or 10 years is if the masses are actually watching and consuming the content, care about the IP. So that's kind of where I think things go from there. I think VFriends, to me, why I have hundreds of thousands of dollars in it, I think has the best shot at doing that. But I think a few others are going to do it. What are your thoughts on this recent washout and just, where NFTs go from here in general, Enigma?
Well, NFTs for the most part are almost like the microcaps of altcoins, right? But I agree with you 100%. You know, there's the ones that are going to shine are going to be the collectibles, the things that people actually want to hold on to. But I think if anything, if you are looking at NFTs, my having come through an NFT cycle and the hundreds and thousands of projects that dropped in that period, it's about betting on the teams and betting on the people behind the particular the asset, the digital asset, the collectible. So whether it's a Pudgy, whether it's a Bored Ape or anything like that, what are these teams actually doing? And I think there are three prime ones, between Azuki, Bored Apes, I think Chimpers, like Gary just said, and you've got Pengu, maybe a couple more, I think VeeFriends and Punks and things like that. These are teams, these are projects, these are established collectibles. My only thing with those is that, I would love to see some of these actually be directly on chain, not just IPFS, because I think that's, it's, they're just still, it's locally hosted. It's not an actual on-chain digital asset where it then becomes immutable completely, right? I mean, it's still immutable, but essentially, if the servers or everything goes down, and we saw that, I think Craig posted the other week, something about Bored Apes, and it was just like the images were gone because IPFS servers from, I can't remember which servers, they were down, so you couldn't see your NFT. So that would be my only thing. And then there was obviously a bunch of collections that were completely on chain. I can't remember if Cryptodes was one by Gremplin and things like that. So Small Brains is another one where
Avastars and like a few of the really old ones, right? Like
like Small Brains, I think, are completely on chain, and some of those really OG collections, I think they're the ones that will really do well. They're the ones I would be accumulating personally if it was me.
Are they hold on, give me 1 second. Are they able to do that, like, in hindsight?
I think with the smart contract, I think there's a way that you can obviously transfer them on chain, but I don't know whether you'd have to then, or you'd probably have to launch a completely separate collection or something like that. There's a lot of smarter people that would be able to comment on that.
Yeah.
But that would be that would be the the better assurance. And then this is why ordinals, the ordinals movement and things like that is so kind of revolutionary in a sense that all of those ordinals, they're all on chain, they're all on the Bitcoin network, so they'll always be there, and you'll be able to see the block and everything that they're on, so inscribed on. So
interesting. Yeah, I think that stuff definitely matters. I think what's really the number one thing, like you said, the teams and everything behind it, and there has to be some type of actual really, if I had to summarize what we just said about NFTs, there has to be some type of organic demand coming outside of speculation from Web3. I think it's rewarding holders is 100% great, and I think it's going to play a big part in the actual acceleration of the brand. But if there's no actual demand outside of the Web3 world, and you're just focusing on like we saw, this pumps that are strictly based on coins and all that different stuff are short-lived if there's not real organic demand from collectors. So I think that's the name of the game for the next few years, is collectability. But Nigma, I know you have to go, brother. I think we should probably, as I ramp up to 4 days a week, we should try to make this a regular thing every week or every few weeks. I really enjoy doing this with you, brother. Thank you for coming
likewise. Yeah, likewise. Appreciate it, bro. I think definitely, tag team in on some of this, whether it's once a fortnight or something like that, I think would be dope. Just to inspire the masses that, irrespective of where the market moves, it's not over. There's always, opportunities. And I think that's the one takeaway piece as I fucking bounce out of here. There's always opportunities out there. Patience is actually a good thing, believe it or not.
Yep.
And you don't have to always be in a trade. So use your time wisely. Go and look at shit. Go and research. Jump into some spaces. What are some people talking about? What are projects people talking about? Do the reading, follow, and then start making some really good choices around what you want to ape into, invest your capital in. If you're a degenerate, get back in the trenches, you plebs.
Love that, brother. All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon. I love you.
Yeah, man. Peace out.
All right, bro. So yeah, guys, I'll stay on here for like another 30 minutes for you guys. Hang out. We actually had a lot of people come on today. If you're just hanging out, we just had Nigma on. Earlier on in the show, I went over kind of the bull case to why I still think, not just the higher time frame charts, but institutions, macro situation, the regulatory clarity coming quickly, to where all that adds up to the very likelihood that we aren't going to see a 2021 type cycle top, and this probably ends up looking a lot more like April than like 2021, right? So chart wise, you can go and watch back the show if you want to hear me talk about, the institutional wise and how all the institutions, BlackRock being the biggest one, is hell bent on tokenizing the entire financial system, the TradFi system. Biggest thing is they're not trying to do it 5 years from now. They're pushing now in 2026 and beyond. The NASDAQ itself is actually tokenizing all the stocks a year from now in Q3 2020. I'm sorry, Q3 or yeah, less than a year now from now, Q3 2026. All stocks will be tokenized on the NASDAQ. It's happening quick. So go and watch that if you want to watch back. But we'll go over the chart section again here, guys. If we just zoom out, go and switch to what? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was sharing the screen. If we go ahead and go to the higher time frames here, if we simply just look at the higher time frames, I believe there's going to has to be a few things that has to play out, which we'll to confirm, but we'll go over this in a second. I think in hindsight, zooming out 6 months from now, we're going to see this correction look a lot more like April, what we saw here, this kind of coil up, or the summer of 2024, and not like the November bear market cycle top that everybody's kind of scared of right now. The biggest thing is that Bitcoin consolidated above 68K for 6 months in October or in 2021 and came down. That was the biggest sign, right? 6 months of holding that, 60K. And then the biggest giveaway was the impulsivity, or how fast this move down came on Bitcoin. It went from 68K to 33K in a matter of 5 weeks. Okay. That is an impulsive move with no pullbacks. Again, that's a bear market. That's not what you want to be caught in. Versus the corrections of the past few years, the 2024 one right here being the most obvious, where yes, Bitcoin did come down from 72 to 58, which is what, a 15% move. But what did we see pretty quickly after? We saw a bunch of wicks and a bounce right back. What do we see again? Another move from 72 to 53, but another bounce, showing corrective behavior. I hope you guys are seeing the distinct behavior in the price action between a impulse or a cycle top, which is straight down 50% in 6 weeks, and a corrective type correction, a corrective type pullback, where it has moves down but bounces and choppiness in between. That's a clear, distinct difference. That points to corrective behavior, which corrections point to continuation. So when I see stuff like that, again, the first bounce off of here, or especially this further choppiness right there, that tells me correctiveness on the chart. If the macro situation, the other things are still in check, continuation to the upside. Just simply, right? We saw the same thing in April. It's very similar to what we're seeing now, where if you looked at just this right here, you would think, oh no, it's just going down, right? It's just a straight red candle like I was talking about. But the thing that really pointed to the correction being over, and what I'm looking for on this correction here for it to be over, is this blue box. You guys see this blue box here? And this blue box I have drawn here? I'll check in a little bit. Can anybody tell me what that is? The blue box? That's consolidation. Again, I talk about it so much on the stream. Consolidation is the number one sign of a bottom or top, right? Even on the lower time frames. So really what I'm looking for on Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, but we're looking at Bitcoin right now, to really confirm bottoms in, while I'll start adding heavier to long positions, is some type of chop or sideways holding a low. Let's just say that low's at 97K. The ideal scenario, let's just lay this out. And of course, it's not going to play out just like this, but let's just say the bottom's in at 97. It makes a move back up to 100K. Comes back down to 97 again without breaking it. Maybe it wicks right under it. Comes back down one more time, fails to break, and then sends back up, that's something like that. That's what you want to see, right? Where we're able to chop down and slow down for a little bit. That's kind of the last piece of the puzzle that I'm looking for to really confirm that this correct bottom's in. And I want you to go after the streamer right now, like go and look at this yourself, right? Consolidations at the bottoms of all these bottoms, right? The bottom of all these corrections or pullbacks. Even here on Bitcoin at the bottom on the weekly chart, at the very bottom of November of 2022, what did Bitcoin do? It consolidated 15K. If you thought it was over now, like you thought people thought it was over at 15K when FTX just collapsed, billions of dollars of fraud was happening. Institutions, not only were institutions not involved, guys, but if you guys remember, the SEC and all the regulators were completely against crypto. They were suing all the major crypto companies. Now, obviously, this has not been fun. Meme coins have been getting wrecked. But think about where we're at now, right? It sounds cliche, but like think about where the fuck we're at now with institutions completely all in on not only Bitcoin and having an ETF, but merging the two worlds and making crypto like a staple of TradFi. And then you have the regulators not only backing off, but they're making it not only backing off, but making like clear framework so the industry can thrive, so the America can be the crypto capital of the world, just like they were for the internet and all these other places, all these other great industries, right? So I hope you can start to see why, even though shit looks bad right now, zooming out, we're not in the same place we were in 2021 when it was like a real bear. But anyway, even at the bottom here, we saw consolidation for like 3 or 4 weeks. So that's what I'm looking for. Somebody asked on here what I'd be looking for like a bottom is some type of consolidation for some type of slowdown. That's usually what we see at the bottom. Of course, we could get a V-shaped recovery where everything just where everything bottoms out without consolidating, but that's very uncommon. Most of the bottoms, I would say like 9 out of 10 bottoms, you're going to get some type of consolidation. But let me know what you guys are feeling. Again, Nigma's off now. I'm going to hang out and look at review some stuff for maybe 20, 25 more minutes, and we'll call it. If you guys could, again, like, comment, retweet, share with friends. Going to continue to do these streams no matter what the market does. But have some cool interviews lined up, like I said. We're going to have my boy Jaden. We're going to have my boy Hemdog. Really excited to talk to my boy Hemdog about his views on, him and I think similarly on a lot of ways, but also he has a lot of great insight in NFTs. He's talked to a lot of great, people from all over the space. He has a lot of great insight as well. Jaden, my boy Jaden, and a lot of others coming up here. Eventually here, going to start with 3 streams and crank it up to 4 streams here in the near future. But like, comment, retweet, share. And let me know what you guys are up to. Let me know what you're feeling. Does what I said with the, make sense to you about the, how I see 2026 playing out? Do you agree? Are you scared? Are you scared shitless? Do you have no clue what's going to happen? Ultimately, none of us have any clue what's going to happen for sure. I don't have a crystal ball. All I can do is take all the information, that I have available to me and, really pump it out. I have the advantage, of course, of 10 years of, living through this is my 3rd cycle now. I've watched hundreds of hours of interviews from experts. I've had the privilege of talking to like the guy Mike Williams or Max a couple months ago for hours of time on here. People who have traded through these different, cycles, being in the Telegram channel on Twitter has afforded me the opportunity to talk to a lot of great experts and people who I've learned a lot from. So, of course there's that, but again, none of us knows what's going to happen for sure. I just have very, very strong conviction with everything's considered, especially now that everybody's on the side of it being over. I think that's a very high likelihood that, the bottom, I said it earlier in a tweet, the bottom I think is way closer than the top. Bren, what is your view? What is a use case for truly NFTs? Well, NFTs, first and foremost, in order for them to be successful, I think other than punks and art and meme coin NFTs, which I think there's going to be something there. It's about collectibles in the same way that Pokemon cards are collected by people because they love it. NFTs are going to be that eventually. But where I think NFTs are really going to, have a little bit of a leg up is because the world's going to become more digital. Gary Vee talked about in that interview the other day that, when AR and VR comes up, that NFTs and digital collectibles are going to be a big thing. Could you imagine a world where we're living in a digital world or a fucking metaverse? Those digital assets will essentially become physical, in some way. And who knows, we might be 5-10 years off from that. I don't know. But let's say some kind of painting or whatever, and you're in your digital house, that digital thing that's on your computer, like a JPEG, then becomes a different story, right? Or in different assets that you can use to do a bunch of stuff that we're just not even thinking of yet. But I think the number one thing is collectability, right? And what I was going to say is what makes NFTs a little bit, next level is they have potential programmable utility. Cards, Pokemon cards, the owner of Pokemon can't go back 5 years from now and give you a discount on Pokemon products, or give you a gift or anything because you've been a Pokemon NFT holder or card holder, but they can do that with NFTs. VeeFriends, for example, all the holders, whenever they drop anything, they give holders first access to buy it, usually for a discounted price. For example, the Topps Chrome VeeFriends cards. Topps Chrome, obviously, one of the biggest card company. Topps, the biggest card company out there. The only IPs that they've done, they do sports cards, obviously, but the only IPs that they've done cards with are SpongeBob, just most recently, Disney, Marvel, the big dogs, right? Pokemon back in the day. VeeFriends just had their Topps Chrome launch this year. The NFT holders, for me, for example, at that time I had 28 of the VF1s. I got access. I didn't buy all of them at the time because I had to do something, and I just didn't even realize myself how powerful it was going to be. But I got like 23, 24 boxes, let's say, for $100. All pre-sale VeeFriends holders were able to buy them early, even before anybody else, for $100. Then it went on sale to the general public, and now to this day, these boxes, the boxes that we got for 100, not these ones, but I'll just show you really quick a sold version of it today. Yeah, so oh wow, that went for cheap. Damn, they go down. Oh no, that's sealed. Oh, that's just the box. I'm confused. Why are these going for $359? Oh, it just went off. Fuck, my bad. Sorry, guys. But anyways, you see. Oh, confirm pre-order, May release. Oh, this is top 20. Okay. Anyway, you see right here, 640, 699, 699. These are boxes again that VeeFriends NFT holders got for $100. So I'm just trying to show you an example of, I think that's a big part of it. And of course, VeeFriends is small right now, but if VeeFriends becomes 20% of Disney, you can imagine NFT holders getting early access to buy something, and eventually, right now, people are already flipping these. Like I said, I opened most of my boxes, but let's say I held all 22 of my boxes till right now and decided to sell them. That'd be upwards of 700 times 20 something. It'd be like 15, 16K for boxes that I paid, 1,500 for. Do the math, 13, 14K profit, literally just from flipping product that I got access to as an NFT holder. So I think this is the future for the most part. There's going to be a bunch of other stuff. I think there's still a future for coins, Pengu, social currencies. I don't know if the world's quite ready for it, but I think there's going to be a time where Fortune 500 companies or big companies launch a token around a brand. And in that world, it makes sense for everybody for tokens to happen. But that's to answer your question. I think the biggest thing around NFTs is going to be collectability. Thanks for another good stream. I appreciate it. Blue box effect. What's that? Time to short jelly. What do you think about happening with Sol? I think Sol's going to follow Bitcoin and ETH to the upside, probably to end the year. What we're looking for on everything, guys, is just some slowdown.
we're pretty much, you see what we have in this box here from February to March. That's essentially what I'm looking for here. Some slowdown to confirm the bottoms in. Obviously this candle is super impulsive, guys. If we were to see, 2 or 3 more of these and we just went straight down to 75K without any bounce, at that point, I'd tell you, we're looking more like the November one. But again, I think all things considered, that's a lot more likely after a bounce and some slowdown that we look more like summer of 24 or April. So let me know. Give me some questions. What's happening on anything at launch, my NFT. NFT holders need to mint some Rectardios. Thanks a lot for answering. Yeah, no worries. Let me know if you're still in the stream here. I know it's let me know if you guys, it's your first time in here. Let me know if you enjoyed. I know I'm sure everybody enjoyed, but let me know some of the stuff you enjoyed with the talk with Nigma. Maybe some stuff that you want me to ask him next time, or just you want to hear in general. I'm here to answer some questions, hang out with you guys for a bit longer. I'm gonna go to the gym here in a bit, but I'm the only viewer here. I'm still here. No, I think there's a few people lurking. MD, what's good, brother? I'll DM you after the stream. Mr. Beast Daily. Are you a Mr.? You never told me. Oh, you're on YouTube. I think that's, I remember. By the way, I forgot to mention, I mentioned most of the, usually at the top of the stream, you see that the top right, the X, obviously you guys are here on X, most of you. We got Instagram. If you go ahead and shoot me a follow on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. The Instagram, I'm definitely going to focus putting a lot more content on there. Long form content on the YouTube as well, and the TikTok, but especially the Instagram. Go ahead and shoot me a follow. I'm Bren Trades with 2 S's. Or Bren Trades with 1 S on everything except X and TikTok. But if you just type in Bren Trades, you'll see me. I'll be probably the first one that comes up for the most part. Maybe except on YouTube. But yeah, shoot me a follow on there. Shoot me a DM saying that you're from the stream, and I'll shoot you guys a follow back. Gonna definitely get more serious about posting IRL content and stuff on the Instagram. So if you want to see that, Crypto Dizzle, appreciate you guys for the restream. I'm gonna go ahead and do that giveaway here right after the stream. Actually, I'll pick somebody from the chat right now. Rick Tardio, what's up, dude? Thanks for the whatever. I'm gonna go ahead and pick one more from the comments too in a bit, but somebody who's been really involved. Let me go ahead and scroll down. I'm randomly eyes closed. Crypto with Carl. I appreciate you, brother. Shoot me a DM. I'll go ahead and shoot you a USDC. And then I'm going to do another giveaway after as well. I'll hang out for another 10, 12 minutes. Let's see if anything's happening on the timeline. Also, if you guys want me to review anything too, like if there's any funny videos, as long as it's not going to some crazy shit that's going to get you banned from the stream, then I'm down to review any type of video, any type of stuff that's happening, or anything else you want me to look at. You can say, hey, I have something. Say review in the chat or something if you want me to review. New profile picture. Jaden Levitt, my homie. Football fans. Sauce Gardner.
Not wrong, and he has officially ended the Biden administration's war on the cryptocurrency industry, and I think that's the message he sent with this.
So you just gotta I said this earlier on the show, but I remember in April when everybody was fucking freaking out, I said, it's obviously price. Most people are just focusing on price, but if you just focus on the stuff that's happening outside, back then it was regulatory clarity with the Stable Coin Act happening with that, and obviously the trade war stuff kind of coming to an end. That kind of stuff doesn't reflect on price action immediately, right? Oftentimes, for example, we're already done with the trade war, but we're still seeing crypto stuff come down. It doesn't reflect in price immediately, but it sure as hell does in the mid and especially long term. Stuff like this happening right now where she's saying, yeah, the White House is ending crypto's, ending the Biden administration's like war against crypto. It's just like use this type of language. It's obvious. People talk about manipulation, but the Trump administration, or at least Trump, they're obviously hell bent on creating like, making it easy to build in crypto in the United States, right? And I think that kind of stuff is not just going to stop. Maybe in the Biden administration, I think crypto is going to be too far, bipartisan by that time. But I think it's important. My whole point in tying this all together is during these times, focus. Price. You want to look at price. You don't want to just be delusionally bullish completely, but like focus on this stuff outside. That's happening outside of the price. That's usually the stuff that's pointing to whether, to where things are heading in the midterm and long term. So, don't worry, guys. But yeah, I think NFTs are inevitable too. Oh, was I not sharing my screen while I was playing that video? Amazing. Oh, okay. Really? I don't know why that switched. Maybe I played it a second time and it didn't. Damn, another wave of Pudgy Penguin loan auctions have started overnight. 100 auctions, 10 currently underwater. Massive pile around 5 ETH. Dang. That's another thing why I'm bullish on my VeeFriends, man. They, at least on the downside, they don't offer the blur loans. So they're not having this problem. It's interesting. Shout out to my Pudgies, man. I think the Pudgies, I'm bullish long term. I'm super bullish on Luca. Definitely want to bet against him during this time. Shout out to you, Grin1, Mr. G. Thank you for sharing. I say this every stream too. If you guys want to clip anything you found interesting or anything you might think that other people might like or whatever funny moment, whatever, during the stream, if you do that, I will shoot you a follow back, and like, comment, engage, all that good stuff. Always appreciate it. Shout out to MKT if you're on here. That guy has been putting out some great clips. Shoot him a follow. He made a great post about this tier list. That guy's been. If you're trying to be like a up and coming like bag worker, grinder, reply guy, just trying to network in the space in general, that guy's a good person you can learn from. That's still up and coming, but like is doing the right things. MKT. He's a regular listener of the show. See, this guy has 400. He only had 300 something followers at the time of this post a week ago. And just by making a good, post that included and got a lot of people to comment on, obviously, got a lot of people to look at it. He got a post at 20K viewers, 20K views, which is, 100x, more than almost 100x his followers. So it just goes to show the Twitter algorithm is all about interest media. And if you have a good tweet, it really doesn't matter. Obviously, having a bigger following makes it easier for the tweet to go viral. But if you have a good tweet, it can still go regardless. Happy to be in the stream again as a crypto noob. Thanks for being here, Grinwood. Were you saying something? Oh, I'm tripping. I was talking to my producer. Before I forget, if you guys haven't already, go ahead and follow the Bossman Calls Telegram channel. I spent a lot of time on Twitter, obviously, but the Bossman Calls Telegram channel is where I put my in-depth, more longer form, most of the time thoughts, where I'll post trade setups, different stuff, most of the time before I post it on Twitter, as well as obviously you have my good friend and co-founder of the channel, Bossman. Bossman actually started the channel early November. A couple months later, when we had about 300 members, he worked it up to. Him and I partnered up. And from this time around in 2023, so about 2 years from now till now, ran it up to about 40,000 subscribers. People from all over the world have a privilege of posting in there every single day. It's been amazing. Been the greatest opportunity and privilege that I've had in my crypto career. So, we've had a lot of great wins together. We've, during the channel, talk a lot about, during these hard times and different stuff I've learned, Obviously Bossman as well, giveaways, streams in there sometimes, all that good stuff. So I know a lot of you already are, but if you haven't already, check it out. Bossman Calls Telegram channel. 21 new followers today. Shout out to everybody who came in from the stream. Go ahead and shoot me a DM. Let me know if you came from the stream, and I'll go ahead and shoot you a follow back. This guy looks like a character. I'm going to follow him back. Dog. Let's get it. But yeah, man. I don't know. I don't know if it's a bad thing that I'm so numb and like used to the shit over 10 years or if I'm just whatever, but I'm extremely optimistic. I think there's so much opportunity. I'm really happy this time around. I don't know if I saw my tweet. I don't think I went over it yet. The biggest thing or the best thing I could have done for myself this year is taking partial profits aggressively. Trust me, if you're sitting here today and you round trip a fuck ton of gains, trust me, I was there most of the point for a cycle and a half doing that. Same kind of thing where, mostly just a believer and not a profit taker at all. I'm a believer in crypto and digital assets and memes, long-term investor believer first, but I'm also a profit taker as well, on the way up. And I think you don't have to pick one or the other. A lot of people think you're either a flipper or you're an investor. I think you can be both. I think you invest in the Bitcoin ETH SOL, build that value over time, and some movement memes and stuff you believe in, but then also take profits aggressively on the way up partially. So this year did that on Pengu, at Pump, USDUC, gave me the, clarity of mind to not feel like I round tripped and shitting myself, as well as allowed me to lock in gains. Lock in gains. Re-add right now if I choose to, which I am starting to on some of these coins. I don't say that to brag. Of course, it's whatever. It's what profits are there to be had right now, whatever. But I more so to inspire you that on this next leg up, take profits aggressively. Doesn't matter. Trust me, right? When everything is bullish again, it's going to be opposite it is now. Right now, it feels like, why the fuck would I want to buy? It feels like shit. It's going to feel like shit selling on the way up when it really is euphoric. Think about AI summer of last year. Think about Trump coin. Think about all these other things. Nobody wanted to sell because it's so euphoric. But that's when you really want to sell. So, yeah. My Twitter algo is cooked right now. I've noticed the Twitter algo. I thought it was cooked for a second too, but I really is just changed. You got to adapt. I noticed that it's just based on tweets now. Like it's based on the quality of tweet, even for bigger accounts. For a few days, I was like, oh, why are my tweets not getting it seen as quickly? And then I realized, okay, I need to be sharper with the hooks. I need to be like whatever, just made a few simple tweets. And now the quality tweets that I put out there, the ones I feel like are sharper and whatever, get even more traction now. So I think they're just really making the algo more efficient and showing your tweets to people who are they're relevant to, and allow you. I think they're increasing the visibility, but based on like quality. But yeah, I think I don't know if that's what you meant. Let's check the current market news. Yeah, I was checking the news earlier. I don't think there's much. I don't know if there's much macro stuff or any updates today. If you guys are looking for news as well, two things. You want to go to BossBot on Telegram. That's something that Bossman and myself came out with like some of these other ones where, it's actually faster than most of the bots, but it's essentially any up-to-date news from macro, from crypto, especially heavy on the crypto stuff, world news, anything literally seconds or minutes after it happens. Check out BossBot on Telegram. It'll give you up-to-date stuff straight to your Telegram. You have notifications on. And then second one, more of a newsletter, is Nifty Noon newsletter. Good friend of mine, few good friends of mine behind, working, the operators of this. They too come out with a daily, almost a couple times a week, a newsletter that kind of compiles, all like a summary of the week, but also compiles all the different important news, things that happened in crypto and the financial world, mostly crypto, in the last, couple days since the last one. Puts a bunch of statistics for NFTs together, for meme coins, all these different things in one. So definitely check these guys out as well. But I don't know what other NFT news that really happened today, or any not NFT crypto news that happened today. 570 million worth of longs liquidated. So let's take it slow with the leverage, guys, man. I think that's the biggest thing is may not seem like it right now in a year where most stuff is down, but zooming out, buying and holding, and not holding forever, but buying and holding and being more of a swing trader is going to outperform almost everybody who's trading on leverage. People might be up for a year, 2 years, but as you can see, eventually there's some type of market catastrophe. People get caught off sides and just get wiped out. Thanks for the follow, my guy. Appreciate you, Jaden. All right, guys. Coming up on 2 hours here. P, I appreciate you reposting. Everybody who's in here, if you're in here at the end of, if you've been in here for the full 2 hours, let me know and say 2 hours in the fucking stream. Shout out to you. I hope you learned a lot today. Had Nigma on, talked a lot about good stuff. The top of the stream, I know obviously a lot of you probably popped in here because of the pretty heavy, what's it called? Messaging in the title about this very likely being the another multi-month correction before Bitcoin heads higher in 26. Please watch back the top of the show. I'm going to put together some great clips here in the next day or so, but watch back the top of the show. Again, anything can happen. I'll be the first one to tell you if anything changes in my eyes, but I think on the charts, especially higher time frame charts, we're going to end up looking a lot like April or summer of 2024 after some consolidation here. I think we could pop shit. Just realized I wasn't sharing. I think we're going to look like April 24 correction, summer of 24 or April type correction where Bitcoin's going to maybe come down to the 90s, maybe low 90s, maybe even wicks under the 90s really quick to really scare people. But even then, that would be just a 30% correction, which what we've seen so far, guys, is every correction this year or the last few years has actually been more progressively steeper, right? The first one was 20%, 25, 30. Will this one be even steeper, 35 before we head higher? Definitely possible. 35% correction, I believe, would put us in maybe low 90s, maybe high 80s. Definitely possible. But I think putting everything together, like I talk about on the top of the stream, we look at the institutional stuff, how, Michael Saylor and, what's his name? Tom Lee, all these smart guys, which of course they're not concerned with timing the bottom perfect, but you got Larry Fink, all these guys just all in on tokenizing crypto. I think a lot of people are just kind of assuming, just not realizing that all the biggest institutions in the world are not just hell bent on sending crypto higher, at least mind share and adoption in the next 2, 3, 5 years, but in the next year, the next 6 months. Like they're making this thing happen now, and you're putting all these things into account. I think it's way more likely we bottom out here in the next couple months, and that the bottom is way closer than the top. And the bottom's way closer than the top. I don't know how that switched. But anyways, definitely watch that back, guys. At the top of the stream, I go over all of that. But overall, guys, I'm just extremely optimistic. Even if we were to come down to the 80s and Bitcoin waited for 6 months to go up, I think right now is Bitcoin and crypto is in the perfect sweet spot where the path is clear. Crypto is going to merge with TradFi unless something out of left field happens where it just somehow just completely turns everything in crypto, some type of like FTX type event, or like where there's some fraud. Other than that, it's completely obvious that crypto is going to merge with TradFi. That all the biggest institutions in the world that literally, it's not like, oh, hey, Larry Fink's betting on Bitcoin. Larry Fink decides for the most part in a big way, BlackRock, what's going to be it. They're the ones that have all the marketing power in the world. And you see sorry guys, I'm traveling in a hotel right now, so there's a hotel phone. But what I was saying is not only I'm gonna close it off here, but Larry Fink, BlackRock, all those guys, they're not only like, oh, they're betting on BlackRock or betting on Bitcoin. Like these guys decide for the most part, in a literal way and in a figurative way, where the spotlight is being shined on in the financial world. You see, one last thing, you see Larry Fink talk about how Bitcoin could be up at 700K, and he talks about how it's the debasement trade. So it's not like you're just setting up these ETFs and not talking about anything in the actual industry. It's making it clear that these guys see Bitcoin and recommending it to people as like an alternative form, alternative thing to put money from their portfolio into. And in that world, I think Bitcoin wins, crypto wins in the next few years. But definitely go check out the Thread Guy interview with TJR as well. That's one's probably going to be interesting. But with that, guys, I got to go sign off. I'm going to go to the gym. I will be back on Friday with my buddy, a buddy of mine. And with that, guys, like, comment, retweet, share, shoot me a DM if you're first time in the stream. I'll shoot you a follow back. And I appreciate everybody who's on here. I think the move is to the best is yet to come. And I hope the next couple weeks and the last couple weeks have been treating you decently, all things considered. With that, guys, love you guys. See you on